This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be working with some beautiful glass. We all know how beautiful it is when light shines through some nice glass. So today we're going to be turning up the heat, turning up the flames, and building glass. Today we're looking at an expansion to a game that I love called King's Forge. This is King's Forge Glassworks. This is an expansion that brings glass a new resource, brings a lot of new cards. Let me show you what's in the box, how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. Now this expansion comes with a new resource, dice that look like glass. And if you look through these, you can actually kind of see through them a little bit. And it's sort of translucent bluish there. You get a bunch of these dice. The expansion also comes with 8 new gather cards, which you'll end up shuffling into the gather deck. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But these things all have to do mostly with the glass. So for example, you could spend 3 of any dice to get 2 glass dice on your smithy tile. Get rid of a green and 2 of any dice to put 3 glass in your hand right away. This one just gets you 1 glass. Again, you can gain a blue, but you give up 5 dice, and all others gain a black die right in their hands. This one's really cool. It comes with a couple of these dice, and this one is you get rid of 2, and you put another one. You can roll the yellow die and use it as any die during crafting. Cool, because it's an 8-sided die. It actually goes up to an 8, so you get better chances of getting higher. You can get rid of a glass for sure, and then roll it, and if it's 1 through 3, you get a green. If it's 4 through 6, you get a red. And there's a bunch of other things that these cards do, as you can see. You get rid of this, and you get a glass, and you get a +1. This is cool. You get rid of a glass, you get a free reroll, or you could take 2 glass for free right into your hand, but everybody else gets 2 on their smithy tiles. So lots of cool things. This bank also place any number of unused dice on the bank, and then move directly from the bank to your smithy tile. And you can perform that action, multiple times during a round. So that's kind of a cool thing there. But yeah, 8 new cards that you'll add to the gather deck. So that works is when you're constructing the gather deck, like usual, you'll take out the 2 forests and 2 mines out of the deck. And then you'll take all of the new cards that you had just gotten. You would shuffle them in with all the other gather cards. And then you'll add 7 of those cards to these 4 to make your gather deck, or you'd add 10 of them in a 5-player game. So essentially what's happening is you're taking these 8 and you're shuffling them in, and you're still going to draw the same amount. So there'll be a different amount of those glass craft cards each game. Now in the base game, you're familiar with the docks. These are the hard tiles. This is obviously the first edition that I'm using. I think there's a board in the second edition. Is you use these dock tiles, and you essentially use these to get rid of dice to get something specific, but they're always available every round. These stay out in the base game, but new tiles come out as well. So in addition to those normal dock tiles, there's 6 new Glasswork tiles that come out. These are hard tiles. Essentially, you will shuffle these and add 3 of them out near the docks. They act just like the docks, but they're all specific to glass. Although if you're playing with a 2-player game, you only shuffle these and get 2 of them out. And these are just ways to throw dice out to get different glass dice. Now the expansion comes with 24 new craft cards, where all of these cards have at least 1 piece of glass. Cool, like a chess set made out of glass, a prism, a glass swan, a bottle, Christmas ornament, and they all have glass on them. And there's 24 of these cards. And what you'll do is you'll shuffle these in with all the normal craft cards, and then you'll set up the craft card deck like normal. So you'll have some value of random glass craft cards in there, and they all have the little goblet, the glass goblet in the top left corner, so you can tell if it's one of those cards. Here's 8 more of those cards: picture frames, windows, binoculars, spectacles, tiaras, glass swords, mosaic, glass slippers. And the last 8: chandelier, crystal ball, kaleidoscope, telescope, glass statue, singing staff, crystal skull, and a magic mirror. So how does glass differ? You've seen that there's a new resource, new ways to get the resource, and new ways to spend the resource. But the other kicker is it acts differently. Let's say we crafted this lantern. We have a 6 metal and we have a 3 glass. It's at least 2. Once I've crafted this and I keep it, let's assume I didn't get it stolen from me, I got to keep it in front of me, any glass used goes back to the supply for other people to use. So glass is sort of a intermediate thing to use where, yeah, it helps you craft stuff, but it goes away because it all gets used. Now that's it for the base expansion of Glassworks. Now there was a deluxe edition available through the Kickstarter. It's not apparent if you can get this after the Kickstarter, but it looks like you possibly might be able to. They might have a few copies of this deluxe edition. What it does is it adds the 24 craft cards with glass, but they do it using the Queen's Jubilee expansion. So if you have the Queen's Jubilee expansion, you can use this with those. Same thing, you mix these in with the other ones. There's also a farm card that gets you 2 brown dice that allow you to use them as metal or wood during the crafting phase. There's also a dungeon gathering card. You spend a green here and all other players must take and escape the dungeon card. There's a bunch of these, one for each player. And then you may not craft items while you possess this card, but you have to spend one of the following to discard this card. Essentially, it stops people from crafting. I didn't like this one that much. And lastly, in the deluxe edition is 6 more apprentices. If you have the apprentices expansion, you can add these to that. It actually has a lot of things to do with the things that were also in this expansion with glass and so on. Now, as I mentioned, I love King's Forge. It's one of those underrated games that doesn't get enough buzz. It's a great dice pool building game. It has a lot of interesting interactions with other players, and I like it a ton, and for some reason it doesn't get the buzz it deserves. Now, I've already reviewed a Queen's Jubilee expansion for this, in my opinion, made the game a lot better, and I never play the game without it because it streamlines it and makes it more fun. It makes it not as punishing, and it just makes the experience better for me. So I always play it Queen's Jubilee. Now this expansion adds, that new resource, and it is different. I like how it adds the different tiles that are sort of like the docks tiles, and I like how it adds the different gather cards. But I also like how it's sort of randomized setup. So there could be games where you have not that many craft or gather cards that have glass on it, but you might have a ton of craft cards that are. And that means, wow, the resources, the demand's high, the supply's low, interesting things are gonna happen during the gathering phase. Or you can have the opposite. You can have a lot of gathering cards that are glass and not that many that are craft, and that will change the way the game plays as well. So I like that randomized setup, and no games will play the same twice. That was one of the big things I liked about this game is you have so many gather cards that when you shuffle them up at the beginning of the game, every game is different, and this even adds that replayability, so I like that a lot. It's interesting also that this resource goes away after you use it. It's treated differently from all the others, and it does give that little twist of like, do I want to get this glass one? Well, if I do, it's gonna go away. Maybe I should focus on some of the other ones that other people throw away their stuff. So it's interesting. I like it. It's not an expansion that I feel like is an absolute necessary must-have. If you don't have any expansions, I would recommend getting Queen's Jubilee first, because again, that really makes the game what it is for me. But if you have played it a lot and you're looking for a new twist, you want that new resource, I can definitely give thumbs up to this expansion. But it's not the first one I would buy, but it's definitely a thumbs up. I'm always going to play with it from now on because it doesn't add that much complexity, but it adds a lot of replayability and a lot of different things to think about. So thumbs up for Glassworks. This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.